Hi, I'm Tyler, and welcome to another episode of my Christian Music Week reviews. Each week I take 5 releases, be it LCBs or singles, and after I listen to them all week, I come back here and I review them and I share what I think about them. So without further ado, let's get to this week's first release, the deluxe edition of Mosaic MSC's latest album, This Is How I Thank the Lord. Mosaic MSC's This Is How I Thank the Lord, the deluxe edition. Let's dive into it. So let's start off with the original edition of this album again, and then I will talk about what's different on the deluxe edition. I feel like that's the best approach here. So pretty good album here. Stylistically, definitely a worship feel. Definitely an alternative worship feel here, which incorporates some pop elements at times, and also hints of some contemporary elements as well here. Pretty chill vibe for a lot of the album here. I would say some folk influence at a couple points too. And now, what's new on the deluxe edition? So we have 3 live versions, which Love of a Lifetime and To Your Arms sound pretty much the same key-wise as the original versions, even if, obviously, we get to see what they sound like in a live setting, and To Your Arms is a little bit longer in the live version. And This Is How I Thank the Lord, though, gets a key change, which I actually like how This Is How I Thank the Lord sounds live better than the studio version. That's just my take, too, though. And then 2 live songs not previously included on the album. A brand new song called Comfort, being one of those live tracks, and the other one being a live version of Matter, which was previously released only as a studio track on their double single from about almost a year ago called Where Would I Be Without You, which you can go back and check out my thoughts on that double single after we're done here in this video. And again, good live versions here. And I think even though the alternative worship sound is retained with some of the pop elements, I would say the live versions show a little bit more of a contemporary side here. And as for the lyrics here, and I'm speaking for both songs already included on the regular edition and the 2 new songs on here. And as for the lyrics here, pretty good lyrics here. Love how Mosaic MSC expresses it here and how they say it's so hard to put into words. They're just overwhelmed how they feel thanks to the Lord. And as for the lyrics here, Mosaic MSC lovingly and joyfully thanks the Lord for how in his undeserved faithful grace and love pursued them with his forgiveness on the cross to redeem them when they were lost, weak, and nothing in sin to be the best they can be, as they surrendered their anxiety to follow his leading that is with them, to give them comforting strength in their weakness and lead them to his right purpose for their every step. Up next, J.J. Heller's new single, Neighbor. J.J. Heller's new single, Neighbor. Let's dive into it. So, pretty good song here. Stylistically, definitely a contemporary ballad with synth elements. There is also a piano version that contains no drum or violin of the regular version, and is just synth and piano. Both versions are pretty good here. Both sound similar, other than the slightly differing instrumentation. And as for the lyrics here, love the lyrics here. Feel like it's very timely, given the divisive election cycle we are facing. JJ talks about how it's easy to jump to fearful conclusions about her neighbors because of their differing political beliefs. rather than to see what they're going through in their day-to-day and love them as her neighbors. Up next, I Am Day's new single, In Between. I Am Day's new single and the title track of their farewell tour, In Between. Let's dive into it, but before I talk about the song, in light of this being their farewell tour and probably their last song, let me just say, I will miss I Am Day. I've been a fan of theirs since pretty early on, so kind of a little backstory here how we first discovered them. Me and my dad attended the Rock and Worship Roadshow tour back in 2015, and I Am Day was one of the opening bands on there. But funny story, I thought it was just a loudspeaker playing, so I thought, oh, we're okay to keep shopping at the merch tables, while I overheard their songs playing. And then we walked in when John Garrett was playing, but thankfully we still got to see I Am Day that night as they came back out for one extra song, which is From the Day. And then after hearing that song, my dad went out to the merch table while I stayed in our seats, and he bought their self-titled debut album. Thankfully, we got the chance to see I Am Day in person with a full set a year later when they opened up for 10th Avenue North on tour. And I've gotten to see them twice virtually since then, opening up for Newsboys on a Christmas show, and then as part of Winter Jam earlier this year. But thankfully, at least one of the members has plans to continue on, as Brandon Chase and his wife are debuting a worship duel that they're doing on this farewell tour. So, sounds like we'll still get to hear new music from at least one of the members of I Am Day. But anyhow, let's talk about this final single. So, pretty good farewell single here, stylistically, definitely a contemporary worship ballad. And as for the lyrics here, pretty good lyrics here for the last single. I Am Day talks about how they gave up on changing from their past shame they were stuck in, but Jesus, in his love and grace through his blood, resurrected them free and changed them to give them eternal hope. Up next, 1K Phew's new album, As I Am. 1K Phew's new album, As I Am. Let's dive into it. So, pretty good album here for the most part. I would say that his flow on a few of the songs isn't exactly my favorite. How his rapping is stylized, but that's just my take. He raps pretty good on a lot of the album, though. And he also has a pretty good singing voice, might I add. And the sound is good throughout here. Stylistically, definitely a hip-hop album that incorporates also trap elements, R&B elements, gospel elements, and lo-fi elements. Vocally here, 1K Phew raps, and sings. And also there are gospel choir samples as well. And as for the lyrics here, love the lyrics here. Really speaks to how Jesus has changed 1K Phew. 1K Phew talks about how he is grateful for how Jesus' grace and forgiveness in his timing saved and baptized 1K Phew out of a sinful past that could have killed him, to be called into and surrendered to God's purpose for him to reach the lost with the gospel of the cross that saves them from hell, even if haters think he's too imperfect to do so. Up next, our last release for today, YB's new EP, Judas. YB's new EP, Judas. Let's dive into it. So, pretty good EP here, even if on the short side of things. 3 songs, 6 minutes. Stylistically, the last 2 songs are definitely hard-hitting hip-hop bangers. The first song's a little more on the alternative lo-fi hip-hop side of things, but still good. Vocally here, YB raps on the last 2 songs, but focuses more on the singing vocals on the first song, or at least more on the sing-rapping vocals on the first song here. And as for the lyrics here, pretty good lyrics here too. YB talks about how his plans disappearing in the lonely storm made him cold in pride. But God uses the storm to change YB out of his pride, and YB decides to honor God by rapping as a champion for him. Well, that's it for this week. Come back next week for 5 more releases. If you like what's still in this video, please subscribe. I put out videos every Friday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. Also, if you have any thoughts on today's releases or what I may have said about them, let me know down in the comments below. Also, in the comments, you can let me know if there's any awesome releases that came out today that you want to see in next week's video. Also, check out the playlist section for a Museum of Strange playlist available here on YouTube and also on Spotify. And this month's edition of the playlist includes songs from artists like Brandon Heath, Kate Thompson, Building 429, and others. So go and check that out if you're interested. Well, go now. See you next week.